So the government has become populist in that sense and enacted a lot of different restrictions to the law. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of In Our Humble Opinion.
Ayo! Mating call on the Amazon.
Okay, thanks Chris. I'm Gilbert Cheah. I'm joined here by my two compatriots, Daisy Irani, cool
Yes.
grandma on the right,
Hello, namaste, namaste.
and Tourette syndrome victim, Chris Henson on the left.
Oh,
You will see-
Tsepoite.
Yes, see. Today, we are going to be very brave. We're going to tackle two important topics, and we're going to be tackling two institutions, the Singapore Police Force and Parliament and the ministries,
Oh,
the
scary,
Singapore
eh?
government. So let's get straight into it. A lot of news has been made very recently about the fact that the police are investigating the PAP Member of Parliament, Louis Ng, for not getting a permit before holding up a small sign saying he supports the hawkers or asking people to support the hawkers at a food stand. This has gotten so much news, not just here in Singapore, but around the world, because people are a little bit aghast that this is happening. And I have friends from overseas who have sent this to me and said, is this for real? Do you guys have like an early April Fool's joke or something like that? Are they really investigating because someone held up a sign like that? Well, yes, sadly, it is true. We're going to talk about that. And we're also going to be talking about new regulations that the Ministry of Manpower has just announced that dependence pass holders, that is the people who are the children or the spouses of people who are working here on E-Pass or S-Passes, who want to work will now need to apply on their own for either an S-Pass or an EP, where previously they just needed a letter of consent. So this is a lot of implications that many people may not know about, so we're going to talk about that. So let's start first with this reverberating information announcement that the police are investigating MP Louis Ng. So just very quickly, he was at the hawker center and holding up a placard, and this was last June during the COVID lockdown, to support hawkers and tell people to support hawkers. Now, why did this surface now, recently? Many people may not know this, but the Online Citizen, which is a local website, actually raised this point and asked the government and police, are you going to investigate Louis Ng for holding up the sign? And this was a tit for tat for the police investigating the activist, Jolovan, for holding up a happy smile face outside on the roadside. So, this is how politics is, unfortunately. So the police, when they are alerted or they are challenged, they do what they're supposed to do and they go in, investigate. So let's get into it. Daisy, give us your thoughts.
Well, I think that first of all, one must understand that the Public Order Act, and under this act, an assembly means a gathering or meeting with the purpose of demonstrating support for any kind of opposing views or action. And if you take part in a public assembly, you need to take a police permit. Now, simply put, the question here is not whether he was a member of parliament, whether he was a member of public. The question simply is, was he breaking the law? Now, if you just look at it in through one lens, you might think he was, because he was at the hawker center and there were, lots of them and it felt like an assembly. And at that critical moment, he kept on holding up this placard, which could mean that it's an assembly and you are trying to push an agenda. Having said that, is it the spirit of the law? Does it go with the spirit of the law? And that's the debate. So the law is not saying that do this or don't do this. I suppose where the police are coming from is, you can do it, but please take our permission. But importantly, now for me, the word assembly has totally changed, because we can understand the difficulty of people trying to understand what is this all about. That's because there is tons of messaging going on the social media. All right. The illegal assemblies today, not illegal, but an assembly today could be the entire social media, all the netizens that you are posting to.
No, that
right?
doesn't qualify under the law.
Exactly.
You're talking about people
no.
gathering
So
in
exactly. So
person.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So what happens is, according to the law, it's a physical assembly, right? But in the spirit of the law, you are confused because you say one
Who's
placard.
confused?
No, when people read this, there is a debate going on. Is this right? What the police did. So according to the law, physical assembly, the police could be right. As the spirit of the law saying, was he doing anything wrong? It was just a placard. Why are we making such a big ruckus?
Okay, Chris.
Where I'm concerned, I want to finish off by saying
Sure.
that we saw a post of Lee Hsien Loong with placards saying that, something to the effect of Singapore, let's come together and make Singapore special. Now, that's a placard. He's on the social media. So now the balance is between posting somebody on social media to millions of viewers or showing something physically in an assembly.
But Louis Ng also showed it on social media, though.
No, but he physically took it when he was at the hawker center.
And where was Lee Hsien Loong when he held up his?
I just saw the post.
Yeah,
So
okay.
I'm just
So it's
saying.
important to
no.
distinguish.
So that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. The debate is about this balance, as in what constitutes today an assembly. So for me, that's an important point as well.
Okay, before I pass it over to Chris, I just need to make a clarification here so that we're all clear about this. The law has a distinguishes between a public assembly and an assembly. There's two, no?
Yeah.
An assembly is anyone, even one person, is considered an assembly. Okay?
Okay.
A public assembly is when there are more people in a public place.
True. But
Okay.
where Louis Ng was concerned, it
Yes.
was a public assembly because he was at a hawker center. And there were lots of hawkers around. He wasn't just alone.
No, that means to say he went alone by himself. So that is an assembly, and that also requires a permit. So both assembly
And public
one person and a public assembly requires permit.
Physical. That's the point that I'm bringing
Yeah.
in. That this POA is for physical, the person being there physically with other people.
Okay.
That's the assembly I'm talking about
Chris?
versus social media assembly.
We're not talking about social media here.
I know, but I'm just giving you my point of view that today, if you hold a placard, you can reach millions of people on the social media.
Okay.
Is that right or is that wrong?
But then the law does not address that.
Exactly. So the debate is about physically it is wrong at the moment when you are in assembly without the law, without a permit. But what I'm trying to say is today we've moved on because you could use the platform of social media with that placard and reach millions of people through that. How does that work for the law, would my question be? You know what I'm trying to say. Okay, doesn't. But that I hope the listeners know where I'm coming from. Because for me, let's say if he had looked into a camera and just said, please support my hawker friends, would he have been arrested?
Of course not.
Is my question.
Of course not.
Exactly. So he was
But
arrested because
what
he
we're
did
talking
it.
about here is the bizarreness of the police investigating him holding up a sign at a hawker center.
I don't think it's bizarre. I think it's
Okay, I think it's bizarre.
Yeah, because it's
let
for
Chris
the
speak.
law.
Let Chris
Yeah.
speak. He hasn't had a word in at all.
Okay, Dana. I think it's okay. You guys can talk. You can talk more on this episode.
Yeah,
because
Chris, come
this
on.
is so scary. This episode,
No, I don't think so.
Scary lah.
Why is it scary?
Anyway, I've heard the both of you. I actually didn't hear Gilbert's opinion about this. He hasn't.
Not yet. I haven't yet.
You haven't said anything.
Yes.
Actually, Daisy said quite a number of things I wanted to say. Not all of it, though. I do agree, where the cops are concerned, they have got to do their job based on the letter or the law. I don't know so much about the spirit of things, though. I just feel, look, besides this being a nation, we are also a community. And as a community, can I use the term protest?
No.
Because if we say it's a public assembly, you're holding up a placard, and that placard was so small anyway, and it's for something good, like support them, and I really support the people in the F&B business, especially the hawkers and the kopitiam stall owners. I am very much for that, for these guys, because they're not having it easy, and the intention wasn't bad. even if we were to talk about Jolovan Wham and that smiley face thing, these things are so petty. I ask for magnanimity. I ask for, come on, let's be light about some things, Again, as I qualify, okay? I don't blame the cops because they're doing a job. There is a law, okay? But as a community, I don't see how people have been dragged through the mud. And as you said, the online citizen, it looks like they're baying for some blood because it's like a tit for tat. So it does seem that some people are trying to politicize it.
Absolutely.
But that being said, I don't think that the authorities ought to look at this just because it's being mentioned on social media that you should act on something. Things cannot be trial by internet. Just because maybe there's a populist opinion over certain things. But as a community, I'm more concerned about, I'm going to be so worried if I hold something up or have, excuse me, somebody's scolding me now, or have something printed on my t-shirt and I go, I take a picture and I put it on Instagram.
You're going to social media. The discussion is not social media, it's physical assembly.
Wait lah.
No, so why are you scared? You can do it on social media.
Wait lah. And then I'm in a public space, and it all depends on what's written in my key. And it doesn't occur to you, for example, right? And you take a picture. I mean, does it mean I can get in trouble? Because right now, every little thing, we need to tread very, very carefully now, right? Even if you don't mean it, even if you don't know that you're committing something wrong, hey, then it just hits you.
Chris, why is it such a problem? You do something, the police find that maybe this is not in the letter of the law. They come, they investigate, you answer honestly, one understands, water under the bridge, move on.
Is that a good use of public resources?
No, it's not necessarily. But it's about the process. No, because see, I noticed with both of you, the point is the police is not here trying to find out what is the content, whether it's anti-establishment. That's not, in this case, primarily their job.
That is their job.
To look at the content. Look,
yes.
I go to the censor board if I want to do a play. I hand in my script. They review the script and they give me a permission to do or not to do. But the point is, that's a different situation where they're looking at the content.
Yeah.
Here, they are looking at assembly. Now, if you let it go and you say, oh, come on, they shouldn't be so... Tomorrow, somebody will use it. Remember, we discussed about that MOE where those young people went and they had a bit of a protest against one
That's
of the...
different. That's outright.
Exactly. So now, again, it's all about the fair balance,
Okay, so we're
isn't
very
it?
clear.
It's about the
Daisy
balance.
supports the police in this. Let me give my point of view. I think the problem is a badly written law. The law is not specific.
Right.
And therefore, any Tom, Dick, or Harry who throws up a complaint, it's the same thing with cats in HDB flats.
Yeah.
Okay?
And the dog who
It's
had to be given
illegal.
away.
It's illegal. But the HDB is not going to investigate unless someone complains.
Yep.
So part of the big problem here really is this culture of tit for tat, of politicizing things, that when Jolovan went out and held up that sign, he was investigated. And so now the online citizen, which is very pro him, went and complained about this. So the police just follow the trail wherever it is.
Yep.
But the problem really is a lack of common sense, I think, on several different levels of people who complain about this, of the way that the law is written. That basically, even if you were to hold up a sign that says, I support the hawkers, you can be investigated. So, the drafting of that law has got to be looked at. I think
Yes,
that's
correct.
really an
Change
issue.
needs to be made.
So that we all agree on. But so what we were talking about is at the moment what happened and our thoughts on that. So moving forward, yes, if it's silly and it does need to be reviewed and it needs to be looked at, yeah, for sure.
I also agree with that statement that Gilbert made, that resource Like, for example, our policing resource could be put to better use.
Because you think about the police investigation.
Yes.
How many things will the police investigate? How many things can each of us, if we really wanted to cause chaos, go and fill up police reports and complaints about each other?
Yes.
You know?
So if
And
that's
then-
not happening, then
but
we are
hang
in
on,
a good place.
No, but when the police don't investigate every complaint, the police choose which one they want to investigate.
Right.
So I think that is part of the point that I was making earlier, which is that it is up to the police then to decide whether or not they want to investigate something. And I think that this is a pretty ridiculous situation. So, with that, any last thoughts on this topic before we move on
Let's move on, man.
to the next one, which is going to be another big one? Okay. So, just as an introduction, again, the government has just announced that, as I said in my early summation, dependent pass holders who come in and with their spouse or their parent and want to work here will now need to apply for either an S pass or an EP on their own, and not just a letter of consent. So let me give an introduction to this as to why this is an issue. What this means is that if you're somebody coming in and you with your spouse and you want to work, you now need to compete for an S pass or EP, and this for S passes there are quotas. So for a company, it does not mean that they can just hire an S pass holder. There's a quota, and the quota has gone up considerably in the past couple of years. The government has been doing this. What this actually points to is a pattern of the government really restricting foreign workers in Singapore on a multiplicity of fronts. And this all happened really after the 2011 general election, when the PAP lost a lot of the popular vote, and there was a lot of online anger about the population white paper at that time, which talked about the growth of Singapore's population. And since then, it has implemented a lot of measures to restrict foreign employment in Singapore. Now, the way that I see it, I'll give my opinion before I turn it over to you guys, basically, to discuss, is that if you look at the big picture, Singapore has a shrinking population. We have a declining birth rate that has continued to decline throughout the years. We have an aging population. We have a labor shortage that is not getting better anytime. And companies are having difficulty hiring people. We're actually in a very unusual situation of having a lot of jobs that cannot be filled in a variety of ways. But because of online anger, and this online anger that's expressed especially by a lot of disgruntled, unhappy, and xenophobic people, I feel, is a very universal thing. I mean, having lived in the US myself, I experienced this kind of thing. Basically, when people are unhappy, it's very easy to then blame foreigners, to say, the foreigners are taking jobs, and that's why I can't get the job that I want, or my friend can't get the job that they want. Which I think has fueled this. So the government has become populist in that sense and enacted a lot of different restrictions to the law. And in summation, I will just say this, I don't want to talk too long about this. This is a losing thing for Singapore, because no matter how you try and do it, the people who are unhappy will always be unhappy. The people who are anti-foreigner will always be anti-foreigner. As it is, if you look today, you look at all the comments online with this latest, most strict move, still not enough. There are people who are calling for the expulsion of all foreigners. There are people who are saying foreigners should not be allowed to work in Singapore at all. And they use a lot of very abusive language like foreign trash. And that's another point. I think that the Straits Times and Mothership and all of these local newspapers need to police their online comments a little bit more, So let's move on now and have you guys talk.
Can I start?
Yes, now you can start.
Okay, bear with me.
Sure.
And I'm just going to say my piece. Let me first qualify. I am not xenophobic. I completely understand that we do need to have foreign labor here. We do. Very badly, very urgently. I also want to say that I have a lot of foreign friends in Singapore. Okay? But I'd like to add this. I think, personally, that the anger on the ground is not about people being so xenophobic entirely. I think it's grown over time. Yeah, some. It's grown over time because some nationalities are rather overweighted on one or two, okay? And some of them don't know how to behave
Sure.
with a certain amount of humility with the local populace.
Yep.
Okay? So it becomes, and frankly, there's some snootiness or uppityness, and this is what people are talking about on the ground. On the other hand, yes, definitely, we need foreign labor for example, menial work, like hawker assistants, people to help the cleaning, and all that. We need those. That's beyond doubt, because Singaporeans will not take up these jobs. Now, they can come up, whichever agency can come up with, we got how many jobs available in this sector and that sector, but no one wants to take them
Absolutely.
up.
There's 1,000 jobs
So on
available
that
F&B.
note, I completely support the need that we need to have foreign labor. However, I think that the people being upset will be more about those jobs that are more PMET in nature. Okay? It has been quite overridden.
Can I just jump in this moment? Because I think it's very important
Wait,
point
just
you
let
raised.
me just
Yes.
end with this last bit
sure,
here.
Sure.
That doesn't mean that we can do the job. On many notes and on many counts, there are jobs that we feel we can handle, but actually we can't.
Yes.
Which is something also that we have to come to terms with. And we have to ask ourselves, how then, therefore, can we compete? That being said, provided senior managements of companies and corporations are not also overweighted to a particular nationality, where the Singaporeans do not get a chance, and it becomes prejudiced or biased towards that nationality or nationalities.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, which I've seen happen.
Well, there are investigations.
No, well, that one I can't say because I wouldn't know. But I've seen that happen, where all of a sudden an entire department is replaced by one particular nationality.
Right. Okay.
Points
well made. Let me just address very quickly before you take. Okay. First of all, this is the thing which I find the most bizarre. Okay. Your point about PMETs, right? Professional Management Executive.
Yep.
All of the government's restrictions are not at PMETs. They are all on S-Pass.
That's the thing.
In manufacturing, in construction, and in service.
Exactly.
So what the government is saying basically is that, okay, you guys are complaining, so we'll put a lot of restrictions in, but we will restrict the companies from hiring the S-Pass workers who are in cleaning jobs, kitchen staff, waitering, service line, hotel chambermaids, all of these are jobs, because we want Singaporeans to take these jobs. They're restricting it on construction. How many of you want construction jobs? This is what I find so bizarre, okay? So we need to definitely address this. This is absurd. This is populism when you are throwing bones to the public, but you're not addressing the larger issue, which people might be more angry about. But let me say categorically, I'm against any kind of quotas and restrictions. I think that people have to understand Singapore is very tiny. We have no hinterland. We will die without foreigners coming in. We just don't have enough people, and the macro trends are that our population is aging rapidly, it's shrinking, and our economy cannot grow without foreign immigrants and foreign labor. No matter what you personally think about this, this is the reality. Very quickly to your point about the bias against certain nationalities, the Ministry of Manpower just announced today investigations, and they have it online. We can see what the results are, which companies have been fined and all of that. So I think that that's a healthy thing for them to keep doing there. Daisy, what do you think about it as an immigrant?
Oh my God.
No, seriously, you can bring some...
Namaste.
No, correct. So
Namaste.
this is the point, you see, that you live in this country for years, you are a Singapore citizen, and we realize that all of us at some point of time in our lives were immigrants.
Yes.
I mean, you both might not immediately be right now, but at some point of time,
Well,
and that's how
our
Singapore
forefathers,
was.
yes.
But that's not what I do agree in parts is to both of what both of you all said. Yes, it is kind of quite surprising that all the laws are being made for the lower strata, so to speak. And that right now is the area where most of the businesses need people.
Absolutely.
Right? So that I totally agree to. Where there are more nationalities in one particular job or not, that is where all this anger and maybe economic jealousies are coming from. But, again, every time we speak about this, I've realized again and again, as we review laws or policies, one of the matters that keeps coming up is how does the government need to balance it? Because, of course, you can't live without the foreigners. And I'm not only talking about ESPAs, I'm talking on every level. You need them because the economy, a lot of what we are being used to, the prices and the dining, and we need it to have a holistic situation. But there's something that, MOM said that we will focus instead on helping companies to be more manpower lean while strengthening their Singapore core. Now, for me, so I'm trying to understand, does this mean that these laws are preparing Singapore for a more self-sufficient Singapore? Are you looking at a more productive Singapore? Are you saying that you become more self-sufficient over a period of time? You are less going to be needing foreign labor? Is it, that there will be a point of time where doctors or IT professionals could very well be doing their jobs from where they are and not physically coming and living in this country?
It's already happening.
But exactly.
Will
so
you
what I'm
see
saying
a
is
doctor just online?
Right, correct. So so where I'm coming from is, are we paving the way for the future? Are we paying for a leaner Singapore, which of course has a lot of foreign input, but again we are coming down to how do you keep the Singapore core, as the minister said.
Okay, I also want to just throw in something here which is very important, is that Singapore, when we talk about population growth, we talk about immigration, people always have these ideas in their heads, and very few people realize this. But year on year, our population grows an average of just about 1%. And that 1% includes all the immigration. That if we did not have the immigration,
Correct.
we would be having a negative population growth.
Yeah.
So all of this hand-wringing about the country being overrun by foreigners and all of that is really just an image. It is not reality.
There's something totally different that I want to mention, because like you mentioned the word immigrant, I want to let you know what happened when I came to Singapore. At that time, of course, you are a dependent. I was dependent on my spouse. And we needed a letter of consent to start working.
Yes.
But there's something I realized, and when I used to meet similar spouses or similar dependents. You see, as far as they were concerned, or we were concerned, the sole breadwinner of the family was the person who came in as the employment, in my case, my husband. And what we tended to do were two things. I went the volunteer path, where I started volunteering in the blind school and all that. And for that, it was very easy to get consent. But I realized that some other people, other ladies I knew, who were educated,
Yes.
well educated, they were where they came from, they were doing very meaningful jobs, and they wanted to move to Singapore. But what they were willing to do was take a pay cut to remain employed. Mm-hmm. And that is something, I am not aware what it is right now on the ground. But I do realize that if I am just a dependent and I can very well get a job, I am willing to take a lower payment.
Exactly.
And that is also something that would rile the locals.
Yeah.
Because the person who wants the job could very well be the sole breadwinner,
Okay.
in the local perspective.
If I may,
That's something I remember, you see.
if I may say something so that we can end this particular topic already. It's funny that Daisy raised what she just did, because I wanted to, and she said it, and I just want to say this. I also realized that many spouses of employment pass holders come here to work.
Yes.
And they actually do a lot of charity work,
Absolutely.
volunteer work,
Absolutely.
where many locals don't do.
Yes.
So I think we need to be a little more mature as a society, that you're not doing some stuff that other people who come here to live and work actually do appreciate the country for.
Yeah.
But notwithstanding also that there are many, of course, who come here as a land of opportunity, and because the pay is higher. Anyone would do that. Even as us, Singaporeans, if we travel overseas to work as expatriates, we would do it because the package is good.
Generally, EP people would be having higher salaries in their own countries.
Really?
Not in Singapore.
Well,
yes.
well, not as far as I know of Singaporeans who go work overseas as expatriates. But we always look at the package, you know.
Yeah. Okay. So, but just very quickly, also, I think that one of the repercussions of this is that for many people, when they decide whether or not to come to Singapore, they also look at the wife being able to work or the husband being able to work.
Right.
Like you said, the spouse.
Right,
Because
the spouse.
that was how it was. And the word on the ground from my expat friends is that now they have to reevaluate it. And many of them actually have to move now and relocate out because they cannot afford to have just one person working. You see? And this is what this new law is forcing to do.
People.
They will not be able to have the spouse working, and
Correct.
therefore, and many of the jobs that the spouses do, especially in the European community, is they are substitute teachers in international schools.
Yes.
And the schools have sounded alarm now because they're going to lose a lot of their substitute teachers, and that's going to cause another problem there. So there's a lot of things to look into here, basically. But unfortunately, we've come to the end, and we have to wrap up. So I will let you guys. You go first, then I'll go first, then Daisy will close.
Yes, let's do that.
You guys ready for Chris's ditties?
Yes.
I can do without
My
the visuals,
God.
but yes.
Let me do this right
Yes.
in front of the camera, okay? Chris's ditties?
Yeah. So looking forward to it, Chris.
Those of you on Spotify are so lucky you didn't have to see that.
And you are so lucky this is
Later,
not
I'll
being
give
done.
you a close up, okay?
Not being done in public assembly.
There are no placards. you know?
No placards.
Okay. I wrote this ditty as a summary of what I feel about both our topics today. So here it goes. So many rules, hard to keep up. Holding up a cut, also kena kiap. But it wasn't a protest, it was a call to support the good people who feed the lot. I hope they'll let it go and make some changes to lighten up as our nation grows. Then there's the problem, too many growing old. Kulikang maizo. Babies pun bo. But please get it right. Many people say, this kind of job go fly kite. Give lah the foreigner. They want those jobs. Don't have to always listen to those who should be labelled as knobs. Thank you very much.
Labeled as knobs. Huh?
I'll leave that alone. So, in my closing statement, I will speak from a person who spent 20 years as an immigrant in a foreign country. And, it's an amazing experience. I wouldn't have traded it for the world, but it opened my eyes to a lot of things. It made me much more empathetic and sympathetic to what it's like to be a foreigner in a strange country. I faced discrimination. I faced the kind of xenophobia that we now in Singapore, many of us, are heaping upon foreign workers and foreigners. And it's shameful. I will just tell you it's shameful. It is beneath us as a civilized society. I would like to think that the people online who are spewing such hate are a minority, and generally they are. I don't think most Singaporeans feel that way. I think the fact that, and just to reference our topic last week about the Burmese maid who was so brutally killed, Singaporeans have donated over $200,000 for her family.
Yeah. And that's fabulous.
That's just wonderful.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Really,
Thank you.
And that shows, I think.
Also, there's a kid, the baby that was born premature, local Singaporean parents needed, I think, 400,000.
Yeah.
In the last couple of hours, Singaporeans have raised 390,000+.
Yeah,
man.
awesome.
That's
So
awesome.
I think there's a lot of kindness still in our community.
So I think that, I hope that the xenophobia and the hatred that people are spewing online is just really a minority. But my point to all of us is that you must realize that Singapore cannot survive without the world. We need foreigners, we need foreign investment, we need foreign labor. How we parse this, how we manage this is of course important. But if you take this wholesale approach that we don't need foreigners and we're going to drive them out and you spew hatred, Lee Kuan Yew said this very, very well. He said, once you drive the world away, you're going to have a hell of a time getting the world back. They don't have to come to Singapore, Vietnam, for example, nearby, is wooing them. The Philippines is wooing them. These countries have got so much more to offer than Singapore. So let's not be so arrogant into thinking that we don't need the world, because we really need the world. Okay?
Yes, I agree. We do need them.
Yes.
We do need to be understanding. When you pick up a subject, whether it is law about illegal assembly or applying a law to control a job market, I think it's important not to think selfishly, like you mentioned, but holistically. I mean, what is really good for our society? What is really good for our country, our Singapore? Is it an even playing field for our citizens? Is it beneficial to all? Not just me. And I agree with you there. But even more importantly, we can differ in these matters, but it's our attitude to these subjects that is very crucial. So like Winston Churchill said, attitude is a little thing. Attitude is a little thing that makes a big difference. And please keep your attitude kind and
right.
welcoming.
As I've always said,
Namaste.
be safe and be kind.
Yeah. And remember to find us all the platforms where you can find podcasts, YouTube and Spotify and Facebook. And please find us there. Listen to us. And we'll be back again next week. So thank you. Namaste.
Namaste, namaste.
Tsepuite, tsepuite.
Tsepuite.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.